Evangelism and discipleship. I see these two things as being very close, very inseparable, and they are very, very vital to Christianity. Mark 16, verse 15, even Matthew chapter 28, verse 19, those are some of the common scriptures we use to talk about, making disciples, evangelism, and these kind of things. First off, the Bible doesn't necessarily mention the Great Commission, but we understand Jesus telling us to go out and make disciples as a Great Commission. I see evangelism as something we do to reach folks on the outside, and I see discipleship as something that we do to build folks on the inside. And I also think that there's no ministry that you can do that doesn't touch on these two things. Either you're very much an evangelist or you're very much a discipler, and there will be some in between. Although we know we are all called to disciple, we are all called to evangelize. So whatever ministry you do, you are either building the body or you're either bringing people into the body, and that is the system. You bring people in, you build the body, and they go forward and they bring more people in and build the body. And often we forget that it's a twofold thing. So some folks might focus so much on building the body that they never go to evangelize and they never reach out to save somebody. So they end up getting fat and just very spiritually strong without necessarily multiplying that, without making disciples. Some folks are so heavily focused on evangelism that they win so many souls, and then the souls eventually just fade away. And very briefly, I think that follow-up, we have this thing we call follow-up in church, where we go out and have a crusade and we write down people's names on a paper and then we follow up with them after a while, which is cool, but I personally believe that follow-up is our lame excuse for not having proper discipleship. If proper discipleship was current in the church, then you wouldn't really need follow-up. There will already be people who has the mindset that, hey, I have to make disciples, I have to make people who follow Christ just as I follow Christ. Then the folks who would be coming into the church would have somewhere to automatically be discipled. And this is just me being very optimistic, but this is how I think it should be. If we were to go further into the scripture, we will see that there isn't really a demarcation between an evangelist and a disciple, because basically when Jesus told us to go out and make disciples, he was basically telling us to be disciples who evangelize. You can't have one without the other. Even in the New Testament, where evangelism is mentioned, it's not mentioned as something that's separate from being a disciple. We are all called to be disciples, and I think we are all called to evangelize. We are all called to go out into the world and preach the gospel and teach the gospel. And that also tells me that we are all supposed to be preachers of the word. We are also supposed to be teachers of the word. So don't think that evangelism is reserved for someone else. There may be someone who has that specific ministry or that special gift of evangelism, but we are all called to firstly be built up in our faith and share our faith. I'm going to leave a link that has some very interesting and very concise information about the Great Commission, so you could click on the link below in the description wherever you're reading this. That's it for me. Tony out.